Hello everyone, it's Jeff. This is take 2 of a Spin Zone video, and I was nearly through the entire video that I was going to make when the low battery alert popped up on my phone and it cut the video off. So we're just going to take a deep breath and we're going to start over again. And hopefully I'll make it all the way through this video. And of course I have it plugged in now, so it shouldn't have to worry about battery level. Alright, I'm going to try to refocus here and go back through everything that I said the first time. And I'll try to be a little bit more concise with it too. I think I was starting to ramble a little bit. Maybe that was the universe's way of telling me to move it along. So, last week I was on vacation, and me and the family went to Pine River, Minnesota. And there was a cabin resort up there, and we stayed there for the week. And it was a very nice time. We were communing with nature once again, breathing that fresh air, doing a little fishing, doing a little boating, and good time was had by all. And it wasn't too hot, except for like one day, because I think one day it was hot, but the rest of the time there it was just picture perfect. It was great. So that was fun. And on the way back, we passed through a town called White Bear Lake and saw a record store there called Go Johnny Go Records, which was open at the time. So we stopped, and I went in there and I took a look around, and I actually found 4 records. So in this video, I've got 4 records that I found in Minnesota. I've got 4 records that I've listened to that I can talk a little bit about, the way I usually do. And I also, after we got back from that trip, a package came in the mail, a VCLT package from Redco Music. And that contained 4 records as well. So I got 3 sets of 4 records to show you. But first, I've got this other one that I haven't even opened yet. My wife gave this to me right before we left last week on the trip. And like I said, I still haven't even opened it yet, but I have no doubt that this record will be awesome. It's Buddy Guy, A Man in the Blues, and the hype sticker here, which I'll show you as I'll show you the back cover as well as I read the hype sticker. It says it's the 50th anniversary edition, a 1968 Chicago blues classic from the Grammy Award-winning guitarist and singer, featuring Otis Spann, Wayne Bennett, and Frederick Below. Includes I Can't Quit the Blues and Mary Had a Little Lamb. And it says, lacquers cut from the original analog masters by Ron McMaster at Capitol Mastering. And it's on 180-gram vinyl. So I'm pretty excited about that. I know some people are concerned about modern-day reissues coming from digital sources, but in this album's case, that's not the case. So I'll be very excited to listen to this, and no doubt you'll be seeing this in a future video after I talk about it a little bit, after I listen to it so I can talk about it. So yeah, like I said before, my wife's awesome. She's bought me or surprised me with many, many records, and I'm very lucky to have her. So but I'll talk a little bit more about her in a few minutes. First, like I said, I stopped in at a record store in Minnesota, and I found 4 records. The first one of them being Spike by Elvis Costello. I should add that this album and another one, 2 of them were originals that were in very good shape, very nice shape, and the other 2 were sealed reissues. So this is the first of the 2 that were not sealed, but the record is in just about immaculate shape. I don't even have to clean it or do anything to it. I've seen Spike on several other people's videos. Usually whenever anyone talks about Elvis Costello, this album usually pops up. And Veronica is the big single off of this album. And this came out during a time when Elvis had collaborated with Paul McCartney on writing some songs together, and Veronica was one of those songs. So I saw it. It was for a good price. It's almost like brand new, so I grabbed it. I seem to be collecting up Elvis Costello records off and on here as I come across them, because I'm a fan of his, and anything that I can find of his that's on vinyl that I don't have, I'm pretty much going to buy, so that's why I got this one. And then I also got Richard Thompson's Across a Crowded Room. This was another artist that I've mentioned before that I think you guys all know I enjoy. This album came out in 1985. And there was another Thompson album, Daring Adventures, there at that shop also, but this one was in a little bit better condition for the same price, so this was the one I went with. Just another album to add to my slowly growing Richard Thompson collection too. And then this third album I saw behind the counter on a rack on the wall, and I asked the guy, you know, how much it was. I couldn't read the price sticker from where I was at, and he told me that there were other copies in a box that was right next to his table. And there were more like 5 copies of this album here, I by Robyn Hitchcock. This was sealed when I bought it. It's not sealed anymore because I opened it up and I checked everything, you know, after I bought them. And Robyn Hitchcock's another one whose albums are kind of hard to come across. So whenever I do, I usually snap it up immediately, and the price was right. I think this was only like $15. And this is the Twin Tone reissue that came out recently, I think in the last year or two. I'm not positive of the exact date, but I was very happy to get that, as I am with any Robyn Hitchcock album. And finally, I just found albums by all the artists that I enjoy. I got another James Brown album. You all guys all know how much I love James Brown. This one's called It's a Mother. And Mother Popcorn is the big song off of this one, I believe. I'm not as familiar with all the other songs on this one, but when I saw this one here, it's called I'm Shook. It's one of my daughter's favorite catchphrases, so when I saw the title on here, I immediately pointed out to her and I said, "Look, James Brown, I'm shook." And of course she looked at me like I was a weirdo, and life went on like normal. So it's the joys of having a teenage daughter. I love her. She's great. But, you know, I'm old. You know, in her eyes, I'm old. I know that. That's okay. I'm rambling, so I'm going to try and be more concise here. So yeah, I was very happy to get all 4 of these albums. They're by 4 artists whose music I enjoy, that I have multiple other albums by, so these are all pretty much like 4 slam dunks for me. He had a couple of Funkadelic albums that I found. He had Uncle Jam Wants You, and he had One Nation Under a Groove, but for the price he was asking, the condition wasn't matching the price, in my opinion, so I had to pass. But I almost was going to take them just to have them, because I know Funkadelic records are hard to come by too, but they were just a little too beat up for me, and I can't spring like $40 for a VG record. I just can't do it anymore. Not that I really did it much in the first place, but you know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, but overall I was pretty happy with that little trip. So I brought those records home with me from Minnesota. And then a day or two after we got back, because we got back last Sunday, late in the afternoon. And then, of course, you had to unpack everything. I had to run to the store, get stuff for, you know, lunches and dinners for the week coming up, because Monday morning I had to get up bright and early and go back to work. So I think it was on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, a package arrived in the mail, and it was from Redco Music. And I remembered he'd asked for my address about a month ago, and I gave it to him, and then I forgot all about it. And so it was even more of a surprise when I saw this package arrive in the mail that had 4 records in it. So I'm going to show those to you right now. They aren't all by people that I know, but I will give them an open, honest listen, like this one here. It's by Martin Briley. I think that's how you pronounce his name. One Night with a Stranger is the name of this album. It's a pretty interesting album cover there. And then there's the back. There's must be Martin himself right there. I have no idea who this is, but this album came out, when did this album come out? 1983. I will give it a shot. I mean, I'm always, you know, open to listening to newer stuff. And then it's got the original inner with all the lyrics. And then all 4 of these albums are like in mint condition, which was pretty amazing. I don't even have to I don't have to clean these or do anything to them. So that's really nice. Believe me, I appreciate that. So there was that. I also got a Poco album, Legend. I've seen this album before. Of course, I've heard of the band Poco. I'm not that familiar with their music, but now I can be, because I will definitely listen to this album. And yeah, this one also is, it's got the original inner with all the lyrics, and the record is, I don't know about pressings, but I know this ABC Records label is pretty old school, from the 70s. So, and it doesn't have a mark on it or anything. It's like brand new. So, Red, you outdid yourself with these, man. This is really awesome. And I will gladly get a little education on the music of Poco, for sure. This next band, of course, I've heard of before. It's Kansas. And this album is called Song for America. Here's the back cover. And it's got the original inner, which I like. I always like having the original inner sleeve with it, if it's got, you know, pictures or lyrics printed on it. And of course, it's got, it's on the Kirshner record label, and as you can see, it's like a brand new record. So, super awesome. Just get this back in the sleeve here. And last but not least, I got an album called The Dukes. It's a self-titled album. I don't know who these are, never heard of them before, but I will gladly give them a listen. When did this album come out? Does it say? 1979. So, The Dukes. And this also has the original inner. Yeah, all 4 of these albums had cool inner sleeves too. It was really nice to see. And then it's on the Warner Brothers label, as you can see. So yeah, I don't have to do a thing to these records. I can just put them on and play them and enjoy. So once again, Red, thank you. I will play these records, and they'll pop up in a later video, and I'll talk about them, and really appreciate it. Thanks, dude. And I will try to hit you back with some BCLT someday soon. So keep an eye out. going back to talking about how amazing my wife is, these 4 records that we listened to this past week after coming back it's always a little more fun to listen to music together, because I listen to plenty of albums by myself, either when I'm here at home alone or on headphones or something like that. But whenever you can play music and listen to it with somebody else, it always kind of makes it a little more enjoyable, especially when you see them getting into it too. So these 4 albums were ones that we listened to together, me and my wife. So that always makes me happy. The first one, actually, we listened to before leaving. It's Around the World in a Day by Prince. This was the album that came out after Purple Rain, and it's got this flap on the album cover, and it opens up into a gatefold with all the lyrics. And I remember when this album came out in 1985, you couldn't escape the video for Raspberry Beret, which was the lead single off this album. On MTV, anytime I turned it on, it seemed like I was looking at Prince with his little suit with the clouds all over it, playing his white guitar. But in all honesty, Raspberry Beret was like the first song that I really kind of liked it by Prince, even as a teenager in high school, because it took me a while to warm up to his music. Back then, like when these albums were new, I didn't care for Prince that much. I didn't really like him. But later on, as I became an adult, I began to appreciate his music more, and now I like him just fine. So this album isn't the same front-to-back classic as Purple Rain was, but it's got, you know, plenty of good songs on it. Besides Raspberry Beret, it's got Pop Life, which was another single released off it. And the song Paisley Park is on here, which is good. But personally, this album kind of fizzles out towards the end of side 2. Like the song Temptation just seemed to go on and on and on, and it got to be a little bit much after a while for me. But overall, it's a decent listen. You know, I'm glad I've got it. This actually could serve as my back of the crate record for this video too, because this one's been sitting in the crate for a while now. So I wanted to, like I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get at least one of these albums like per week or whatever, pulled out of the back of the crate and spun, so they're not languishing there forever. So yeah, this was a decent listen. You know, it's Prince, so there's a certain level of quality there, but I still like Purple Rain in 1999 a little bit better. And then we got this album here by Ministry called The Land of Rape and Honey, and you can see it is a Music on Vinyl reissue, and there seems to be some dislike, like on the Facebook VC group, about Music on Vinyl reissues, because the source material is digital for these pressings versus analog, the analog tape. And while I don't know if this actual album was sourced digitally or not, it doesn't really say on here anywhere, or even inside the sleeve that I could find. Personally, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, I only have a couple Music on Vinyl pressings, but the ones I do have all been pretty stellar. I mean, the quality and the pressing has been really great. Haven't had any issues with it. Haven't had any, you know, no haze all over it, no marks, not like some of the other reissues that I've bought. So, I mean, for me, the pressing quality is there. They sound great to me. I'm sure maybe if I like A/B'd it, I might be able to tell the difference if it was the analog versus the digital source. Maybe. I don't know. But all I know is it sounds good. And for this album is like a jackhammer going off in your brain. So I don't think it would really matter if it was digital or analog sourced. Because if you know this album the way I do, and this was one of my wife's favorites back in the day, she was rocking out when this thing was playing. And I don't think I've ever seen my speakers throb before, but I swear if I'd pulled the covers off of the grills off these speakers, them woofers would be just throbbing, because this was this is not the dance pop version of Ministry. This is not the With Sympathy album here. This is definitely hardcore. I don't know what you call their music. It's just like electronic metal, maybe. I don't know. It's good. I mean, I like it to a point. My wife loves it, and just being able to watch her rock out to this is plenty of enjoyment enough for me. So yeah, this was a fun time. But yeah, Ministry, The Land of Rape and Honey, Music on Vinyl reissue. To me, it sounds great. So I guess it's just up to your own personal opinion and your own ears, I guess. Which was why I pointed out the Buddy Guy album being sourced from analog, because they don't really tell you on a lot of these reissues, unless they do a hype sticker like that, where they've sourced the material from, if it's from like the original masters or not. Then we listened to Echo and the Bunnymen. Let me take it out of the bag here. I posted this one the other day on Facebook. This is Ocean Rain. This is another one of my wife's favorites. She's got this on CD. I know I've got this on the computer. I've got it on my iPod. And I think she had this on cassette back in the day when this came out in '84. There's the back cover. There's the track list. And of course, Killing Moon was the only song I really recognized off this album. I'm not as familiar with Echo and the Bunnymen the way my wife is. This is an original 1984 pressing on Sire Records. It's in very, very good shape. It sounded great. The thing with Echo, I mean, I love this album too, but like I said, these weren't. This wasn't necessarily a band that I listened to a lot back in the '80s the way she did, so she's much more familiar with them than I. But I'm catching up. This is a very '80s sounding album, but in a good way. It's not like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm listening to this shitty '80s sound. It's not like that at all, but it does have those, it kind of has that colder production that a lot of those early to mid '80s albums had. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it sounds a little hollow. Like, it doesn't have that full, punchy sound. It sounds a little more cold and hollow. But these guys make it work. I mean, they definitely incorporated that into their sound. And really, front to back, this is a great album. And even the kids recognized Killing Moon because they watched 13 Reasons Why on Netflix. And I guess that song was on that show. So as soon as that song came on, my daughter came down and she's like, oh my god, that's from 13 Reasons Why. So anytime I can relate older music to them is a good thing. So this was another good one. Ocean Rain by Echo and the Bunnymen. And finally, I'll try to wrap this up. I know I said I was going to be concise, and I'm over 20, almost at 25 minutes. I listened to this one here, or we listened to it, Newport, New York, 72. And yeah, this was sealed when I bought it at that yard sale about a month ago. And while this album cover looks, well, it doesn't look as warped as it did when I opened it. It's kind of flattened out some. The record wasn't warped at all. It played beautifully, and this is definitely a mixture of songs. It's kind of like a catch-all. It's got a couple by Billy Eckstine. It's got a couple by Curtis Mayfield, like Stone Junkie and Pusherman. And when he introduced Pusherman, he talked about how this was a new song of his that's going to be featured on a new film called Superfly. So that was pretty cool. B.B. King on side 2 with I Need My Baby. Herbie Mann played a flute instrumental version of Hold On, I'm Coming by Sam and Dave. And then the last 2 were by Roberta Flack. So this is just the back cover. It's just a bunch of liner notes. But this was a very nice album to listen to. Very pleasant listen. And yeah, I liked it. She liked it too. She kind of gets into blues and jazz and soul and funk too. So this was this kind of touched all the bases for that. So Newport, New York, 72. The Soul Sessions Volume 6. This was a good one. Okay. I am running long, so I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. And it didn't cut out this time, so that's why I want to wrap it up. I don't want to jinx it. Like I said, I'll be going to a record show Sunday, so probably won't be having a video until next week, early. And hopefully I'll find some good stuff. So we'll all find out soon. Until then, peace out, take care, and have a great weekend, everybody.